Okay, now my last one is a big one. It's the Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, started in New York in 1967 by Dwight York, who called himself Malachi Z. York, maybe because Malcolm X was already taken, but he started a bunch of black Muslim groups and preached black supremacy mixed with some Egyptian, which he spelled with an I, not a Y, and UFO pyramid type stuff, Illuminati, Bilderbergers, no theology, he said factology. And it's such a typical cult. I mean, he took advantage of all the members. He built a mansion in the Catskills in New York and preached that all whites are devils and always will be because of leprosy and mating with jackals and dogs, and that Christianity was a tool to keep pale man in power, which, yes, it has been used that way. I don't blame him, and I don't blame black people for being taken in by this. But so he said that as a tool to keep pale man in power, to destroy the heritage of Nubian black men and women and children. He mixed a lot of his beliefs, by audience, kind of reading the audience in that, and opened quite a few chapters, even some in a couple other countries like Trinidad. They had some restaurants, begged, did a lot of pamphlets. He added UFOs and Atlantis. I think maybe similar to the Wakanda Black Panther story. The comic books were out then. I don't know, maybe he read that. But he moved from the Catskills in 1993, bought 476 acres in Putnam, Georgia, where he built a compound, had them build him a pyramid, and changed his name to Chief Black Eagle of the Yamasee Native American Moors of the Creek Nation to try and open a casino in that pyramid. And when that attempt failed, he opened a nightclub in it. Oh, the other place in the Catskills was called Camp Jazeer. And the whole time he was using his adherents, his believers, and taking all their assets and beating them if they didn't bring in a certain quota, and preaching all this stuff, and also using their children as sex slaves, especially their little girls, their young girls. Only found one thing about a 6-year-old. One of the witnesses said from the time she was 6, most of them were about 12, 13 when he started with them. But his wives, his main wife especially, would groom them, teach them what they needed to know. But he had a son, Jacob York, who left the cult in 1990. And when he heard about this pyramid called Tamaray, the thing was, in Georgia, there in Putnam, Georgia, when the police shut down the nightclub due to zoning, it was illegal there. He started putting out papers. This was near Eatonton, Georgia. That was the biggest city right there. He had a magazine called All Eyes on Egypt. And he called any black leaders in Georgia House N-word, and was kind of terrorizing the county attorney, Frank Ford. Left a gutted dog on his property, threw bricks through the windows, and not him personally necessarily, but his followers. And they also threatened Sheriff Sills. And Dwight's son, Jacob, went to confront his father in 1968 because he heard about Tamaray. Oh, he heard about Tamaray because in 1999, where was it? Oh, I'm sorry, in 1993, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton spoke. I think that was in 98, and then Jesse Jackson in 2001. But Dwight's son, Jacob, he went to confront his father in 1998 when he heard about Tama Ray, because they were putting out to the public that they were being discriminated against by Georgia, by Putnam County, but mostly by Eatonton. And yet they were doing all this terrorist activity there. And Dwight told his son Jacob, I don't believe any of this shit. I'd dress up as a nun or be a Jew for this kind of money. But the ATF and the FBI got in on it, and they wanted to really be careful and not have another Waco incident. But they did arrest Dwight York because Jacob York worked with Sheriff Sills and found hundreds of victims. They had 90 victims, I guess, that they actually charged, and 70-some witnesses. And in 2004, Dwight got 135 years in prison, and his main wife got a couple of years. What my take on this, though, is why does this kind of proves a lack of God also, because here you have, these, he had changed his name so many times, and that was it. Jesse Jackson was there in 2001, Al Sharpton in 98, but all this stuff that this guy did for years, and yet here's this young man, also in 1960s, he was assassinated by the government in 1969 in Chicago in his bed at age 21. And he was just as charismatic, and he wanted to do all colors, a rainbow coalition. He was preaching peace, but getting equality in that. And yet, he's murdered. And look at all the black people killed. That, it's always been going on, but we just see it now with all the cameras and that. And to me, that just shows, that's just more proof that, there is no God watching out for the good, because, and there, I know believers will say it was Satan, but no, it was just one guy covered it up, and was more, public with it, and that times had changed by the 90s and the 2000s when he got arrested. So as far as, they didn't just gun him down because of Waco and that happening, so they were more careful. And I guess he was lucky that Georgia had this Sheriff Sills who didn't just take him out. Dwight York was lucky, I meant. Anyway, to me, that's just another nail in the coffin of the Bible, so I have done this. I will send it in, and that's it, okay? I'll give Jim as much editing as possible when he's sick, and I don't want that. I'll see how it looks in the morning and see if I'm going to go ahead and send this and see if Jim can use any of it. If not, I'll try and redo it more scripted. I'm bad at this. This is only my second video ever. So, and with a new phone. I didn't know how to use it. So, okay. Love and peace.